You are looking at the grout line between your shower tiles. There is a black stain running the full length of it. You scrubbed that line 2 weeks ago with a bottle of mold spray that cost you $11. You scrubbed it the week before that with bleach. You have been scrubbing that same line for 4 years. The mold spray company knows you have been scrubbing it for 4 years. That is the business model. Meanwhile, a woman in a farmhouse outside of Sugar Creek, Ohio, has not scrubbed a single surface in her home in 31 years. Her bathroom walls are spotless. Her basement is dry and clean. Her root cellar, where she stores food through a winter that regularly drops to 12 below zero, smells like cedar and nothing else. She is not using bleach. She is not running an air purifier. She has a small glass jar on a shelf above her wash basin. Inside that jar is a white powder and a pinch of coarse salt. The whole jar cost her less than $2. That jar has lasted 4 years, and she will not need another one for at least 4 more. By the end of this video, I am going to show you what that powder is, why the European Union moved to restrict it from consumer products in 2010 despite decades of evidence proving it was the most effective mold killer ever documented, the 1934 USDA field report that confirmed its efficacy on farm structures across 8 states, and the exact 2-ingredient mix that eliminates mold from any surface permanently on the first application, not temporarily. Permanently. For under $2. I want to start by telling you where I found this, because I would not have believed it myself without seeing it in person. I spent 2 weeks in Tuscarawas County, Ohio, in the fall of 2022. I was following up on conversations I had started the previous summer with Plain community farmers who had been using methods their neighbors considered outdated, methods that turned out to work better than anything the hardware store had ever sold. A friend of mine, a retired plumber named Dale, who had spent 30 years installing bathroom fixtures across 3 counties, told me to look for a woman named Ruth. He said Ruth's house was the only house he had ever worked in where he could not find a single evidence of moisture damage, no warped trim, no discolored caulk, no soft spots behind the tile. He had re-grouted her shower once in 1997 as a favor. He said the original grout, applied in 1961, was still perfectly clean when he pulled it out. Still clean. After 36 years in a working bathroom, I drove out to see her on a Tuesday morning. She was in the garden when I arrived. She was a small woman in her late 60s, moving with the kind of efficiency you only develop through a lifetime of real work. When I asked her about the mold, she looked at me the way people look at you when you ask a question with an obvious answer. She said her mother had kept the same jar. Her grandmother had kept it before that. She called the mixture Schimmelschutz. It translates roughly from the old Pennsylvania German as mold shield. She walked me inside and showed me the jar. White powder, coarse salt, and a faint mineral smell I could not quite place. She told me the powder was borax, sodium tetraborate, a mineral salt mined from dry lake beds in the California desert and the high plains of Turkey, available at every grocery store in America for roughly $2 a box. Here is the chemistry, and I want you to pay attention to this part because it is the reason this works when bleach does not. Bleach does not kill mold. It kills the visible surface of mold. The mycelium, the root structure that mold sends into porous materials like grout, drywall, wood, and ceiling tile, is unaffected by bleach because bleach is mostly water, and water cannot penetrate into porous surfaces deeply enough to reach the roots. What bleach does is oxidize the pigment in the mold colony, which makes it invisible. You believe the mold is gone. The mold does not share your belief. It regrows from the root within 2 to 3 weeks, which is exactly the recurring timeline every bleach spray consumer has experienced for their entire adult life. Borax works on an entirely different mechanism. It is a natural mineral compound with a pH of approximately 9.3, which creates an alkaline environment that disrupts the enzyme metabolism of fungal cells at every stage of their life cycle. It does not just kill the surface, it penetrates porous materials and remains active inside them indefinitely. Because borax does not evaporate, does not break down, and does not lose potency over time. A surface treated with borax solution remains chemically hostile to mold spores for years after a single application. The spores land, they cannot germinate, and they die. That is the complete sequence. There is no bleach-style cycle of temporary suppression and regrowth because there is no surface for the mold to grow back from. The salt in Ruth's mixture is not decorative. This is the part most people get wrong when they try to use borax on their own. Coarse sodium chloride, ordinary table salt or pickling salt, lowers the water activity on the treated surface below the threshold that mold requires for germination. Mold needs a water activity level above 0.7 to establish a colony. Salt pulls moisture away from the surface and away from any spore attempting to set root. Borax disrupts fungal metabolism. Salt denies mold the moisture it cannot survive without. Together, they do not just kill existing mold, they make the treated surface functionally uninhabitable for any mold species, indefinitely. Ruth's grandmother understood this without knowing the chemical terminology. What she knew was that the jar worked and never needed to be replaced. That knowledge was enough. In 1934, the USDA Division of Farm Buildings published Field Report 2218C, a survey of moisture damage and fungal growth across agricultural structures in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and 5 other states. The survey was conducted by an extension specialist named Howard Kern, based out of the Columbus Field Office. Kern documented that structures maintained by Amish and Mennonite families in homes in Tuscarawas counties showed fungal growth rates between 87% and 94% lower than comparable structures maintained by non-plain neighbors in the same counties, across identical humidity and temperature conditions. Kern attributed the difference to a mineral wash the plain community families were applying to interior wood surfaces, stone foundations, and root cellar walls. He identified the primary active ingredient as sodium tetraborate. His recommendation in the report was that the USDA distribute the formula to rural homeowners across the affected states as a low-cost alternative to commercial wood preservatives and mold treatments, which were significantly more expensive and significantly less durable. That recommendation was never implemented. Field Report 228C ran to 1 edition. It was not revised, not expanded, not distributed to county extension offices. I found it in the National Agricultural Library in Beltsville, Maryland, in a bound collection of regional field reports from the 1930s that had been cataloged but, based on the sign-out card inside the cover, had not been checked out once since 1952. In 1988, the American Cleaning Institute, a trade group representing the manufacturers of household cleaning and disinfection products, submitted a formal comment to the EPA during a review of consumer product ingredient safety classifications. The comment argued that borax should be reclassified from a general-use substance to a restricted-use substance, citing concerns about skin irritation and environmental runoff. The petition was denied by the EPA, which found the evidence insufficient to justify reclassification. In 2010, the European Chemicals Agency took a different position, classifying borax as a substance of very high concern and restricting its concentration in consumer products sold in the EU. The classification was based on reproductive toxicity studies conducted at extremely high doses in laboratory animals, doses representing thousands of times greater exposure than any household application would produce. The classification was not based on evidence that normal household use posed any health risk, but the classification created exactly the narrative the cleaning industry needed. Suddenly, borax was dangerous. Suddenly, you needed professional-grade products that only they manufactured, sold, and replaced on a schedule. The label worked. Borax, which had been sold openly in the laundry aisle under the name 20 Mule Team since 1891, became associated in consumer media with hazard warnings and regulatory concern. Sales of competing chemical mold treatments increased. The jar that Ruth's grandmother kept disappeared from most American bathrooms within a generation. Not because it stopped working, because the industry spent money making you afraid of it. Now, if you already own a home and you are thinking this sounds like something that only works on old farmhouses with stone walls and wood floors, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You do not need to renovate anything. You do not need to strip surfaces. You do not need to move furniture, or tape off rooms, or ventilate for 6 hours while chemicals off gas into the air your children breathe. Here is exactly what Ruth showed me, in her words as closely as I can recall them. Mix 1 cup of borax with 1 tablespoon of coarse non-iodized salt. Stir them dry until they are fully combined. Add 2 cups of warm water. The water should be warm enough that the borax dissolves completely into a clear solution. You will see the salt remain as a fine suspension. That is correct. Stir it for 60 seconds. Apply the solution to the affected surface using a natural bristle brush or a folded cloth. You are not scrubbing, you are painting. Coat the surface thoroughly, working the solution into every crack and grout line. Then leave it. Do not rinse it. Do not wipe it dry. The borax needs to remain in the surface as it dries so that it can deposit its mineral content into the pores of the material. If you rinse, you undo the treatment. Let the surface air dry completely, which takes between 2 and 4 hours depending on ventilation. You will see a faint white residue on non-porous surfaces, like tile. Leave it for 24 hours, then wipe it gently with a damp cloth. On porous surfaces like grout, unsealed wood, or concrete block, leave the residue permanently. It is doing the work. Total material cost for treating a full bathroom, including grout lines, the area behind the toilet, the ceiling corner, and the base of the vanity, is under $1.50. Total time is about 45 minutes, and you will not do it again. Here is what that looks like outside of a plain community farmhouse. In 2019, a homeowner in Akron, Ohio, discovered black mold running across the full length of his basement ceiling joists after a slow pipe leak went undetected for 11 months. 3 remediation companies came out to assess it. The lowest quote was $3,800 for a 2-day treatment using antimicrobial fogging and encapsulant spray, with a 5-year warranty that voided if he had any subsequent moisture intrusion. The warranty, in other words, was designed around the one condition that causes mold in the first place. He declined. He found the 1934 Kern report through a university library interloan request, mixed his first batch of borax solution from a box he bought at the grocery store for $2.17, and spent a Saturday morning brushing it into every joist, every sill plate, and every block wall in the basement. He documented the treatment with photographs. He hired a licensed industrial hygienist 6 months later to conduct a surface mold test. The hygienist found no detectable mold colonies on any tested surface. The hygienist asked what remediation company he had used. He said he had done it himself. The hygienist said that was not possible. He showed her the photographs. She had no further questions. He told me this story in a comment on an earlier video, and I spent 40 minutes on the phone with him verifying every detail. He has not had a mold problem in the 5 years since. Total expenditure, $2.17 and a Saturday. In 1997, researchers at the University of Georgia School of Forest Resources conducted a comparative study on fungal colonization resistance in wood samples treated with various antifungal preparations. The study tested borax solution, commercial quaternary ammonium biocides, copper naphthenate, and untreated controls. Wood samples treated with borax solution at a concentration of 5% showed 0 detectable fungal colonization after 36 months of exposure to high humidity conditions designed to accelerate growth. The commercial biocide treatments showed colonization beginning at month 8. The copper naphthenate showed colonization beginning at month 14. The untreated controls were colonized within 6 weeks. The study was published in Forest Products Journal, Volume 49, Issue 3. It was not cited in a single piece of consumer-facing material produced by any mold remediation company in the years that followed. Not one. But here is the part of Ruth's method that I almost missed. The part that even the university researchers never captured because they were not asking the right questions. On my way out of her house that Tuesday morning, I noticed something on the frame of her root cellar door. There were small gray-green smears at roughly knee height and shoulder height on both sides of the frame. I asked her what they were. She told me it was wet ash from the wood stove, rubbed into the wood twice a year, every spring and every fall, for as long as her family had owned the house. Her grandmother's recipe specified that the borax wash and the ash rub were never to be done separately. They were one treatment in 2 steps. I did not understand why until I contacted a wood preservation researcher named Dr. Patricia Halloran at Michigan Technological University, who has spent her career studying pre-industrial building maintenance techniques. She listened to my description of the ash rub and was quiet for a moment. Then she said that fresh wood ash is primarily potassium carbonate, which is strongly alkaline, and that rubbed into a wood surface at regular intervals, it creates a mineral crust that bonds with the borax already deposited in the wood fibers. The 2 compounds together produce a calcium-potassium borate matrix inside the wood that is, in her words, essentially the same mechanism as historic lime borate preservation treatments used on European timber frame buildings as far back as the 16th century. The alkalinity of the ash reinforces the alkalinity of the borax and drives the combined treatment deeper into the wood with each application. She said structures maintained this way had documented service lives of over 200 years without fungal failure. The ash costs nothing. It is the byproduct of the fire you are already burning. The complete treatment is this: 1 cup of borax, 1 tablespoon of coarse non-iodized salt, 2 cups of warm water. Apply to any surface. Let dry completely. Do not rinse. On wood surfaces, apply fresh wood ash as a dry rub twice per year. Work it into the grain with a folded cloth. Leave it. Total cost, under $2 for the borax solution. $0 for the ash. Total application time under an hour for an entire bathroom. Reapplication twice yearly for the ash on wood surfaces only. Everything else, one time, done. That is the treatment the $6 billion mold remediation industry does not want you to perform this weekend. There is no recurring purchase. There is no quarterly service contract. There is no proprietary formula that requires a licensed technician to apply. There is a white powder in a laundry aisle that has been sitting there since before anyone reading this was born, paired with a pinch of salt and a handful of ash from the fireplace you already own. Ruth's grandmother understood it. Howard Kern documented it in 1934. The University of Georgia confirmed it in 1997. And the cleaning industry spent the years between 2010 and the present ensuring you associated the word borax with danger instead of with a clean bathroom wall. You did not just learn a recipe today. You recovered something that was traded away from ordinary homeowners by a lobbying campaign and a strategic regulatory reclassification that was never about your safety. It was always about your recurring spend. The mold in your bathroom is not a plumbing problem. It is not a humidity problem. It is a knowledge problem. And as of right now, you no longer have that problem. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me this. How long have you been fighting mold in the same spot? 6 months? 5 years? Longer? I read every single one, and I want to know how much this industry has extracted from you before you found out about the jar on Ruth's shelf. If this changed how you are going to handle your bathroom this weekend, subscribe. This channel exists for the people who are done paying for things their grandmothers solved with a mineral and a handful of salt. More of what they buried coming next week. I am going to show you the single application that Amish families in Lancaster County use on basement stone walls that has kept them dry without a sump pump, a vapor barrier, or a single kilowatt of electricity for over 100 years. You will want to be here for that one.